And we're back here on the Big Time Sports Podcast Show. Mitch Spinell alongside Mitchell Balla. Mitch, now it's time to go over from high school basketball to the professional side as we had NBA All-Star Weekend officially complete in Salt Lake City. Now, I don't mean to compare NBA All-Star Weekends. I don't necessarily think that this one compared to the one last year based on our own personal biases, but Salt Lake City, it just went about as well as any other All-Star weekend, so to say. I mean, you got the events in, you got them all situated out. How much did you invest this weekend, Mitch, into viewing the not just the game itself, but all the other activities that went before it?
Mitch, I watched the 3-point contest and that was it.
That
I
was
did not
it.
watch the All-Star for a second last night. I had no interest in the dunk contest, although I did see the highlights the next day. It's not that I didn't
Yeah,
want to watch it. Um, I was invested in the 3-point contest because I did bet on Damian Lillard to win the 3-point contest. So thank you, Damian Lillard.
fair.
And the All-Star game, Mitch, I actually listened to the draft on my drive home from Menor last night after a broadcast. The draft was cool. Newsflash, someone was still picked last. So the whole we don't want anybody
Yeah,
picked last thing is thrown out the window. It's just I mean, I woke up this morning, I saw the score. Obviously, no defenses played. The over-under, I think, was 336 and a half, and it was shattered, of course. I saw Mike Malone's comments afterwards saying that was bad basketball. Mitch, to me, it was awesome last year because it was here in Cleveland, right?
yeah.
And I got to be up in Cleveland, didn't go to any of the events, but just being up in the city was awesome. It was a very awesome experience. The city was electric, but there isn't much you can do with the All-Star games now in the NBA because there aren't many new dunks you can break out, at least that we haven't seen yet. The 3-point shooting contest to me is the best one because for the most part, you always have a few, if not the entire class competing, are very good behind the arc and shooting 3-point shots. And the All-Star game, Mitch, I knew Giannis was barely going to play. He scored the first point, had a
Yeah.
foul, never checked back in. LeBron played 14 minutes. There was a couple guys in there that were all-star reserves because of injuries, a couple of guys from reserves to starters because of injuries. I also just like my sleep, if I'm being honest. So with how late it tipped off last night, I just wasn't completely invested. This is nowhere near the Pro Bowl for the NFL. Let me make that abundantly clear.
Sure.
That is a joke and needs to be fixed immediately. But this is still fun. I just think part of it was how late it was. Obviously, again, you have to do that because every team, or for the most part, a team throughout the entire United States in different time zones is
Yep.
represented. But the 3-point contest was fun. The skills challenge, I don't even know what that was. I mean, I saw the highlights of that too. I did want to watch the Rising Stars game. I was unable to. Actually, I did want to see Evan Mobley in that and see all these upcoming stars, across the G League and currently in the NBA that are in their first or second year of action. So I didn't get to see that, but not that it's a turnoff to me, Mitch, but even the MLB All-Star game now isn't what it used to be because there used to be significance to that. If you won it, you had home field advantage in the World Series. They've now done away with that. But what did you think? And how much time did you invest in watching all the festivities of All-Star Weekend out in Salt Lake City?
I caught 3-point contests. I caught the draft for the All-Star game in about the first half of the first quarter. And then I just kind of checked out from there because it is basically just a layup line in game form. That is that All-Star game. The draft is fun. You get to see in real time Giannis accidentally picking John Morant as a reserve compared to a starter, and then him eventually getting him. I was kind of just watching it to see if LeBron would actually end up picking Donovan Mitchell, and that wasn't the case because he was going to go with Kyrie first. And then I thought he was going to go with Donovan second, but he didn't. Um, and there were some people saying the other night, like the dunk contest got a rejuvenation. And I
Mm-hmm.
do agree with that because Mac McClung came out. By the way, happy Mac History Month, by the way. You sent me that one tweet by Darius Butler. That was funny because it was cool to see a guy 2 games into his NBA, 2 games into this season at least. He played with the Lakers and the Bulls last year for like 2 games, come up from the G League and do what he does. And people are kind of enthralled by it. I am a little bit hesitant to call it the dunk contest's ultimate return because you've heard guys like Kenny Smith the other night saying that he saved the dunk contest. Did he though? Because we thought Zach Levine and Aaron Gordon did the exact same thing like 5-6 years ago, and then we just went back to getting all the other cast-offs that you could get for the contest, and it led me to down this rabbit hole on Twitter where I did find this. I'm not going to play the clip because I think you, the viewer at home, and you too, Mitch, should watch this clip as well. This is a clip from, I believe his name is, it's Zach Schwartz on Twitter, and he has a podcast called Buckets, and it is the sense of what they should do with the NBA All Star Game, mainly because Zach believes that we have hit the ceiling on what a human can physically pull off with a basketball, like you were like kind of what you were saying. And he suggested the idea of a one-on-one tournament between the marquee names of the NBA. Like, why wouldn't anybody want to see Giannis go up against a guy like Damian Lillard? Why wouldn't we want to see Paul George go up against LeBron? Why wouldn't we want to see Luka go up against
Devin Booker.
whoever? Exactly. I mean, it would be such a unique idea. I think you could probably break this down into like a let's say an 8-man tournament to start off, and then you go to 4, and then you go to the final 2, and then that's it. Give them like a one dribble rule, give them 3 dribbles, just so you don't have 2 guys chasing each other around at half court the whole game. I think it would be interesting, but I think I would rather put that as its own event. I don't think you necessarily need to replace the dunk contest with this. I think a one-on-one tournament, if you had to choose one event to get rid of to put this one in, I would take the skills challenge, because the skills challenge is decent. It's fine. You get to see some more marquee names in there, but really it's just making shots, passing the ball. What do we do? Making layups. These are skills that every NBA player should have. This isn't special. 3-point shooting is kind of special, even though now it's this era. Dunking is still kind of special. I think it would be more competitive, a more competitive sense than just having an exhibition of practice, basically. And there was another idea that I think I saw on my buddy's page. Oh, it's from Natasha Dye, who said they should turn the skills challenge into a celebrity portion, because they still have the celebrity all-star game. And the celebrity all-star game is still fine. You get a number of names out there. It's just its own little thing. I did love that the Miz came that close to celebrity all-star game immortality. That close. And if that would have happened the year before, we would have ran out on the floor. Everyone would have done that. But she also mentioned to turn the celebrity game into this is a good one, the best one, I think. Turn the celebrity game, and well, not maybe turn the celebrity game, but have a game with fan voted players who are not all stars given MVP in that game too. That would be like a game where you could put on a team Jetty Osman, Boban Maranovic. You could who's another interesting guy in the league? Get like, I don't know, Rudy Gobert. I don't care who you're putting in at this point. I guess for our Cavaliers' sake, we can put in Lamar Stevens, and then just do a bunch of random guys. Put a bunch of random guys in this game, and maybe one of them can become like a sensation out of it. That is an actually interesting idea, even though I think that would probably suit more for like an off-season park ball sort of thing.
I don't hate that idea at all, actually. I'm all ears for new ideas when it comes to NBA All-Star Weekend. I think you can do a lot more, Mitch. I actually saw another person on Twitter propose that for the dunk contest, you should take 7-footers and then also the shortest players in the NBA and put them like 3 tandem teams with one of the taller players. So, for instance, Bol, you mentioned Boban Maranovic, and like Taco Fall, who I understand is currently not in the NBA, but then take the 3 shortest guards, tandem pair them, and do something fun like that for the dunk contest. I'm all for it. But that tweet you had on the screen is right. We have hit a ceiling on what a human can possibly do in the dunk contest. Years ago, there was always the argument LeBron should be in the dunk contest, and people want John Morant to be in the dunk contest. And I get it. Part of the reason they won't, they don't want to get hurt. They also have never been happy with the judging selection on how they rate dunks. We saw it before with Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine. That has turned players off in the NBA. I get it. There has to be ways to incorporate something new, some new blood. I mean, the NBA is talking about doing a in-season tournament, Mitch. So why not add something to All-Star Weekend if we're talking about adding new things into the NBA, maybe shortening the season, doing an in-season tournament? I'm all for it. Maybe a half-court shot competition. I mean, although at this rate, it would probably just be Damian Lillard and Steph Curry going back at it over and over and over, which, Mitch, I would honestly sit down and watch, because those two are fun to watch shoot the basketball. There has to be something you can incorporate. Obviously, when you look at baseball, the home run derby is always exciting because it's who has the stamina to hit the most home runs in a time, who can hit the ball the furthest, which is always fun to watch. Nobody watches the Pro Bowl games for the NFL anymore. The NHL has a pretty solid All-Star weekend. That's generally fun, but All-Star weekend in the NBA, something's going to have to change. I will say I like the Elam ending, right? You take
Yeah.
the at the end of the third, you put 24 points up there. That's the target score. The other team has to come back, overtake that and then score the 24 points on top of it. I like that, but at the same time, it is like a full court 5-on-5 open layup line. Obviously, Damian Lillard last night, the shot that he took from beyond half court was pretty insane. And then I got to watch something this morning on, he actually practices those shots. There was people, it was actually JJ Redick's podcast that I was watching where he was talking with Vucevic from the Bulls, and they talked to Damian Lillard. He practices those shots at the end of practice when he's tired. So that way, when he's in the game and he feels good, he has the confidence to shoot those shots and knock them down, which is crazy to think because we've seen Damian Lillard start to stretch his range more and more towards that timeline. But even something like that, I think would be fun. I saw another account today say, we have super fans of the NFL, right? We all know that there's certain NFL fan bases.
Yep.
What if we did super fans for the NBA and put them on the court and they played against each other? I don't know how much I like that, but it's an idea. I said I'm all ears, so I'm not going to contradict myself and say I'm not. Something has to change. Will it change? I don't know, possibly, but the dunk contest is fun. It's just once Blake Griffin dunked over a car, I don't know what else you can do. Once Dwight Howard, was it Dwight Howard that dunked on a 12-foot hoop, I think, or I'm sorry, higher hoop. I thought they brought out one that was maybe I don't know. I just remember there was a hoop that was brought onto the floor before. I mean, Mitch, all that's left to do is pretty much do the things we see at Cavs games with Moondog jumping off a trampoline or maybe somebody jumping from the rafters or something crazy like that. But
yeah,
I don't know how much you can do in the dunk contest. And that's why it's not as big of a deal to me. Maybe if you got stars to go into the dunk contest, it would be more appealing. I definitely think more people would have an eye attached to it and would want to watch, but I don't see anybody anytime soon of big name that you saw in the All-Star game last night going to the dunk contest. Nobody wants to risk injury. John Morant obviously won't do it because he said he needs 1 billion likes to do it, which I don't believe is possible. We'll have to wait and see, but it's still fun in certain aspects. It is what it is. It just depends on how devoted you are to All-Star weekend in the NBA.
They did kind of do that idea you mentioned earlier about getting a bunch of big guys and smaller guys together, because the first ever ABA All-Star, well, it was the ABA All-Star game in 76, and that one had Dr. J, who won the event. Obviously, you had David Thompson, George Gervin, the Iceman, Larry Special K Kenon, and then Artist Gilmore, who was like the tallest guy in the world in his day. But yeah, they've had a mix of it since then. It is now just unfortunate that you can't have the same draw as you used to back then. You can get some really talented guys like Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, and now Mac McClung, who's probably going to be back next year. But we'll see where it goes from there. I always wondered what happened to the that one competition. I completely forgot what it was called, where you had an older NBA player, a WNBA player, and a famous person representing a certain city, and that was the Shooting Stars Challenge. I forgot about that. I completely forgot that was a thing. They also had for 1 year a horse competition. Somebody mentioned too. I think they were saying that maybe you could turn the dunk contest into a horse game.
I see. I don't hate that at all. And maybe depending on how many people you have, maybe you tone it down to pig. But these players, Mitch, are the best in the world. They can get very creative in terms of shots they take, and there's really no boundary on shots you could potentially take and make and practice. Whereas a dunk, obviously, we may have seen the top dunks we will ever see. I mean, obviously, people can come up with new things. I don't hate the pig or horse competition at all. And to your point, we mentioned the one-on-one tournament. Maybe you have 8 people and maybe they advance in the pig tournament. So 8-4-2. I mean, that would be fun in my opinion. You get to see players showcase things. Maybe some big men that don't typically shoot in NBA games have some shots up their sleeve that, would be frowned upon to take during an actual game, let alone in the back end of the season when every game matters now. But I would be all for that to watch players do that.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think the NBA should do with its event. Should they add stuff? Should they bring stuff back? Should they get rid of stuff? I mean, it's all just a crapshoot. And again, all this stuff is basically just for exhibition. It's for our entertainment leading up to an all-star game every year that now is kind of, it doesn't mean as much because like you mentioned, they don't play for seating in the or home court advantage in the finals, kind of like what they used to do with the World Series in baseball. I still think baseball needs one more event. I'm not sure what it needs besides the
I,
home run derby, but because you can't do a pitching thing. You could, but so many teams are going to get worried that one of their guys is going to throw their arm out. That would be inevitable. A fielding challenge. I don't know if people would be excited by fielding, but it'd be something.
well, Rich,
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen it, but over in Japan, they have their All-Star weekend for baseball. And listen, it might not be appealing to people at home, but they do bunting challenges
that
and
could be something.
they put targets on the field. And if you hit a certain target, it's worth X number of points. To me, I think that would actually be intriguing as well because bunting is starting to become a lost art of baseball.
Yeah,
You don't see bunting a whole lot anymore. Maybe you put targets on the field and you see how many players can spray the ball to different parts of the field. I like the pitching contest, but at the same time, you would almost have to have pitchers that are not in the All-Star game
exactly.
in that, because if they are in the All-Star game, they're not going to throw in that and then throw in the All-Star game at the same time. So I like that idea, but it just would become hard. You could say the same thing in terms of outfielders trying to throw home or throw to a base on the fly. They don't want to injure their arms if they don't have to. There has to be a certain way to get things going. I don't hate a bunting contest at all, actually. I think that would be pretty fun because, like I said, bunting is a part of baseball. It is becoming a lost art in baseball. And from what I've watched over from Japan, it's pretty electric when guys can put the ball and just stop it in the middle of a target off a bunt. I would love to see that, to be honest.
No doubt.